A man is in lifelong search. That's how he's built. Whether he wants it or not, whether he's aware of it or has no clue. He is constantly looking for a sense, searching for himself. Everybody chooses their own path. Some choose yoga, some choose religion, some choose a trade they love. My choice is traveling. Solo traveling. 5 years ago, I got the feeling I had to change my life. I quit from my own company that I had built from scratch, bought my first motorbike, and set out on a travel. From the very beginning, I was one-on-one with my motorbike and instantly fell in love with the road. The feeling of uncertainty, when there is no plan, when you don't know where to go or what the next hour will bring, just me and my motorbike, and the state of meditation on wheels. And what had happened before seemed unimportant and meaningless. 1 year later, I made a trip around the Black Sea, 7 countries and 7,000 kilometers. And then I made a solo 20,000-kilometer trip to Mongolia on a sport tourism motorbike. And yet another year later, at the age of 39, I was ready for something even wilder and more adventurous. I decided to travel around the Southeast Asia. My first association with Asia is India. I wanted to travel the peninsula from the north to the south and from the east to the west. But this idea lacked this unpredictability factor. That's why I included in my travel the mystery Pakistan. This country was no less important than India. I wanted to see this country with my own eyes, to prove or disprove the rumors circulating around it. The route was expanding, and soon the third country was added to the list. I chose Sri-Lanka as my final destination. My plan was to travel these countries by the transport that I could buy locally. I was going to travel Pakistan on a bicycle, India and Sri Lanka on a motorbike. I didn't try to plan the route in detail. I made no serious preparation, did no internet search. I just got my visas to India and Pakistan and found out what is considered illegal in Muslim countries. Just like in all of my previous travels, I chose a solo trip. When traveling together with other people, it's next to impossible to be alone with myself, to hear and feel the cosmos and communicate with the people that you meet on your way. You simply don't really notice what is happening around you. When traveling alone, you have no one to rely on, nobody to share your joy and worries with. When you're alone, you do it all with the people that you meet, with the environment you are in, and with yourself. You're open for the new and unexplored. The solitude makes you something of a wildcat at rest. You are concentrated and relaxed at the same time. Solo travel gives you unforgettable communication with complete strangers. When spending the night in the open air in West Bengal, I didn't get distracted by the necessity to converse with my travel companion. I just contemplated the stars and got filled with the energy of the space.
Как это классно, когда над тобой звезды, когда никого рядом нет, когда кругом природа, непонятные звуки. Можно подумать, можно просто посидеть молча. Классное состояние на самом деле. Хотя до этого 7 ночей, получается, я ночевал в отелях. Первый раз такое со мной произошло в путешествиях. Вот. Не скажу, что это мне не понравилось, но не хватало именно пространства, не хватало именно космоса, не хватало именно звезд.
Solitude makes you feel vulnerable, while in fact, when you are following the space without any resistance, you become invulnerable. I was preparing myself for the extreme solitude in Pakistan, with its unknown culture and language, the stereotype of a hostile and mysterious country. When I was studying the route, I came across the list of the world's most dangerous countries, where Pakistan ranked 4th. So the Pakistan stage became more of a test rather than travel. I went through some serious preparations for the Pakistan travel. With me I took some packed meals, matches, 2 knives, a satellite tracker. The plan was simple. I had to arrive in Karachi, a 20 million people city, get myself a bicycle and spend 2 weeks traversing the mountain parts of the country. When you're at home in Ukraine, 3,000 kilometers away, it all seems easy and fun. But in this hot, overpopulated city, I had to face the reality. My adventure started on the first day, right after I bought the bicycle.
Во-первых, погнулась полностью седуха, а во-вторых, отпала педаль. Это на самом деле я даже километра не проехал. Ой, классный байк оказался, вообще охрененный. Короче, я думаю, буду сейчас бросать этот байк и искать новый, потому что вариантов других нету. Этот парень предложил мне поменяться на этот велосипед. Но на самом деле я сейчас думаю реально поменяться, потому что ехать все равно невозможно. Я думаю, что на него поменяюсь.
My new vehicle had super sport tires and a picture of the previous owner.
Короче, смысл какой? Я еду непонятно на каком велосипеде, непонятно куда, непонятно зачем.
All in all, I failed to start my travel on the first day. I only managed to reach the outskirts of the city.
Сейчас уже вечер первого дня, я в Карачи. Все не заканчивается этот город, народу безумное количество. 4 полосы в одну сторону, 4 полосы в другую сторону. Очень устал, но это состояние, когда в принципе остановиться невозможно, отдохнуть невозможно, надо постоянно двигаться, надо постоянно уходить от преследования, потому что кругом попрошайки с одной стороны, с другой стороны на тебя неровно дышит. Поэтому, ситуация такая, что надо уходить с города.
When I was leaving Karachi late at night, I was put up for the night by Salim in his car rent office. Enjoying the meal with him, I tried to joke, but this feeling of surreal and the unbelievable chaos around me didn't leave me. In the morning, several locals came to see a foreigner. They also talked me out of going to the mountain region, as it wasn't safe. So I headed east. For some time I chose the direction following my intuition. Frankly speaking, the country depressed me with its empty, unfinished buildings, police barriers, and barren plains. At noon I decided to have a rest. I went off the road and immediately got a puncture from a thorn. I had to go 5 kilometers on a flat tire to the nearest bike workshop, where my first task was to talk the locals into repairing the tire. They simply wouldn't do that until their boss woke up. 2 days later, I was utterly exhausted, both physically and mentally. The solitude I had come here for turned out to be impossible in Pakistan. Besides, At one of the gas stations, I found out that I had got lost. It was the final blow. I had come here to travel and to break the stereotype of fear of this country, but ended up feeling the constant urge to quit. Lying in the office of a gas station where I had stayed for the night, I no longer wanted to go out there into this big Pakistan. I felt no desire to go on traveling on a bicycle. So I left it at the gas station, got on the roof of the Pakistani route bus. I headed for the mountain town of Huzdar. My travel now was nothing but a tourist trip on a public transport. In Huzdar, the little mountain town, I was surprised to become the main attraction for the locals. Many people wanted to talk to me. The local guys offered to show me around the town, but finally took me to their place instead. The clay hut was home to 17 people. There was no furniture, only carpets and cushions. During our communication, the guys took turns to perform namaz. Upon returning to Karachi, I wandered the old city, taking pictures of the dirty streets, local people and painted buses. I was a bit shocked to see the bowels of animals sacrificed at the recent religious holiday being sold right there on the sidewalk. It wasn't the kind of travel I liked. So I spent some more time in Karachi, saw the local rituals, visited the Arabian Gulf, but all this time I kept thinking about home. I simply couldn't relax and get pleasure from my stay in Pakistan. So immense was the chaos, the filth in the streets, and psychological discomfort. To tell the truth, I was responsible for the chaos created, as I was in constant fuss and hurry. So naturally, it didn't lead to anything good. The bicycle kept breaking down, the SIM card wouldn't work, the map was outdated. I had overestimated my ability to adapt to any situation. And as a result, I found myself in the situation, the extremity of which I couldn't withstand. On top of it all, by the end of the trip, I got food poisoning. I felt happy returning to Ukraine and was thinking that everything is relative. Having left Pakistan behind, I felt no need to go to India and was uncertain about my future trip. But a week later, I got to packing my things again. I was facing a month-long trip and 6,000 kilometers across India. The choice of a vehicle was obvious, a motorbike, which I had decided to buy upon arrival in Delhi. Counting on a warm Indian winter, I decided not to take warm clothes with me, only the bare necessities, the cap and the mat that had been with me in all of my travels, the helmet and some basic clothes. I wanted to test myself in this mysterious country where every second citizen is a yogi and every 10th is enlightened. Anyway, that's the feeling I got when reading about this country. My plan was to cover as large a territory as possible, thus such a sophisticated route pattern. Before the severe winter came, I decided to start with the Himalayas. The mountain range was like a magnet for me, due to its high number of 8,000-meter peaks, unique nature and the aura of spirituality. I arrived in Delhi on December the 5th, and the following day I became the owner of the classic chopper Enfield 350.
Мне нравится Индия уже сейчас, потому что Такая какая-то спокойная страна, никто к тебе не пристает. Хотя я уже там просмотрел несколько магазинов, но ко мне еще никто не подошел сам и не предложил мотоцикл. Просто вот люди стоят и ждут, пока к ним сами не подойдут. Мне это очень нравится. Хотя народу и много, но они какие-то такие спокойные, доброжелательные и не пристающие друг к другу. Это круто. Сейчас я сижу и жду свой байк.
In India, I decided to change my behavior pattern. No fuss or hurry, no brain strain. Though I was in no hurry, the events unfolded very quickly. But the state was completely different. It was as though I was watching myself from the side. Since it was hard for me to understand Indian English, I asked for help from a local guy, Kalpish, who had studied in Russia in medical institute. Yet another friend in another country. Not only did he help me buy the bike, but he also tested it, giving me a ride down streets of Delhi.
Enfield Bullet. На самом деле он так ревет здорово, что просто невероятно.
Приготовимся, офигенно вообще. Супер.
In the evening of the first day, Kalpish and I drank some beer and talked about the Indian life. Kalpish said that though he loves his motherland, he wants to live somewhere in Europe. The beginning of the travel is the most interesting thing. You're all attention, expecting new events and sights, not thinking about the dates and miles you have to cover. You simply go and enjoy the ride. The motorbike turned out to be pretty noisy but comfortable. The speed of 90-100 kilometers an hour, the ideal temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, and the wide highway started the first chapter in my Indian travel. I love movement, love feeling it with my skin, heart and mind. I hardly ever have long breaks in the afternoon. I start in the morning, have 3 or 4 short breaks during the day, stay somewhere for the night, and the next morning I am back on the road again. It's the movement itself that makes the travel exciting. It's for this purpose that I get away from home. I don't like overpopulated countries and lots of transport on the streets. That's why I chose the Himalayas. The higher into the mountains, the fewer people you meet. What worried me most was the possible breakdowns, as I don't know a thing about motorbike repairs. I only have some basic theoretical knowledge. The Enfield cost me only $1,100. Clearly, it's not the most reliable bike on earth, but it's the best that this money could have given me. I was sure that soon I was gonna have the fun of bike repairs. I had to wait for one day. In the evening, when I had reached the northern point of my route and was going to turn to the east, my motorbike refused to start for the first time.
У меня начал течь бензин. Сейчас ребята какие-то сразу подошли ко мне и пытаются мне помочь. Ну, посмотрим.
I was lucky. The bike had broken down in a little town 300 meters away from a hotel, and the local IT students helped me get the bike to the hotel, checked me in and called up a mechanic. In the meantime, I could simply enjoy the things happening around me. We spent time drinking, smoking, communicating.
Dear Mr. Alex, you're welcome to Himachal Pradesh and have a pleasant stay here.
The morning started with the motorbike repairs. The mechanic came with 3 tools and repaired the motorbike in no time. I closely watched all of his actions as if feeling that the information would soon come in handy. And indeed, I was soon unfortunate enough to have an on-the-road breakdown. I went 20 kilometers away from the town, made a stop to take pictures of the nature, and again couldn't get the bike running. Like an obedient monkey copying the mechanic's recent actions with a carburetor, I managed to start the engine. though only for a short while.
Сука, а? Чё с ним так?
So I had to call up the same mechanic from the town. And so the most northern point of my travel was all about breakdowns, repairs, and meeting new people. It looked like the travel was gonna be fun. Almost as much as riding in the daytime, I love overnight stays. The ideal place for it is in the open air. You stop, make fire, put up the tent, make coffee, and meditate, contemplating the stars. And then again, at this time, I wanna be all by myself. There are things to think and write about. But this time, I hadn't taken my sleeping bag and tent with me, which I often regretted later on. It's quite uncomfortable to spend winter nights in India. Winters here are very cold and humid. My first open-air overnight stay was in the northern India, but I managed to hold on until 2 at night. I ran out of wood, so I had to get underway and search for a hostel. When you make a stop in the evening after the day on wheels, you feel exhausted. You don't care about anything, and it feels like you are in prostration. The quality of a place isn't important, it's the stop itself that matters. I have stayed in different places, in a 2x2-meter cubicle in Pakistan, and in a hostel where in the morning the atmosphere in the backyard was home-like. The hosts were drinking tea, a yogi was washing himself and doing asanas while I was washing my motorbike. I have also stayed in a 5-star hotel, and not because comfort is so important for me, but because all other hotels were all booked up. In one of the villages, an Indian guy helped me find a place to stay for the night. He then followed me everywhere all evening long, helping me choose and sample local sweets. At the very heart of India, I allowed myself an open-air overnight stay. It had gotten warm and I thought that I had left winter in the north. Though anticipating the cold temperature, I still felt I had to spend at least one night in the field. It's like a ritual. That's what makes the travel complete. I went off the asphalt road and went along the row of local huts further away from the highway. I was tired of the roar of the traffic and wanted to get away from the people's curiosity. Preparing myself for sleep, I got into all the warm clothes I had, awaiting the cold, and it soon did come.
Второй раз пытаюсь ночевать на природе в Индии. И второй раз понимаю, что без спального мешка, без палатки, это такое занятие интересное, очень увлекательное, я бы даже сказал. Хотя это центр Индии уже, и днем достигает 25-27 градусов тепла, но все равно я понимаю, что ночью очень большая влажность и температура падает, наверное, градусов до 5, до 6. Вот, так что сегодня ночью сначала я все-таки немножко поспал, потом понял, что надо что-то разжигать типа костра, вот, но дров не было, а потом в очередной раз, бродя по окрестностям, надыбал стог сена рядом и не ожидал такого счастья. Вот, так что сегодня у меня такой теплый ночлег получился.
At 7 in the morning, I was already being watched by some locals from the nearest path. The field workers showed interest in my morning exercises. I'm surprised by their kind, open, and even childlike curiosity. Closer to the middle of my travel, I stopped caring about other people's attention to me, and I even started to get some pleasure from it. Unlike in the previous times when I tried to leave the site as quickly as possible, this time I took my time to pack my things and communicate with the people. Meditation is available not only when you're riding your bike, but also during the short afternoon breaks. I made one stop every 100 kilometers and combined feeding myself or the bike with contemplating the world around me. I was simply enjoying the meal and the stop. I wasn't thinking about my work or my friends that had stayed at home, nor was I thinking about my future plans. I was simply living here and now. I ate everything I could find, from American hamburgers to Indian flat cakes with meat gravy. I didn't care what to eat. I just tried to make sure that I wouldn't get food poisoning, though it's quite hard to do when your meal is so overpeppered. The urge to be on the constant move has its downside. You pass by places, people, events that can be important and useful. But I don't like to stop. Every time I pass by a gas station, I catch myself thinking, to hell with it. I will refuel at the next one. When you're riding alone, you don't want to go out of your state of meditation into the big world of people's communication. On the other hand, I don't want to trap myself in my solitude, and communication is very important for me. But when I get to a village, I feel that I want to move on and get to the next one. It's my conscious choice. But the space around me may disagree with me. When you start thinking that there's a boring journey ahead, you bring troubles upon yourself. Usually it's breakdowns and repairs which make me communicate with the outer world. I myself may be their cause. Even the motorbike I chose for my travel isn't the most reliable one. So the word repairs will make a good title for one of the parts of the movie. Breakdowns happened everywhere and all the time. The troubles with the bicycle in Pakistan were transferred to the motorbike in India. After the Himalayas, I became a regular visitor to different service stations to fix or straighten something. My luck was that bike service stations in India could be found everywhere, every 20 kilometers. But such incidents gave me the chance to communicate with people and turned the problem into an opportunity. Quite often I serviced the bike myself. I cleaned the carburetor and oiled the chain.
Не помню какой-то день, но сейчас я сижу на дороге в каком-то одном из индийских поселков и жду механика, который мне должен починить колесо. Буквально за 300 метров я увидел, что колесо у меня начало спускать. Я сюда подъехал сразу, и получилось так, что здесь находится механик.
Some locals gathered around me. During the repairs, we got to talking. I took some photos, we made friends, and I gave one of them my video camera to shoot my departure. I also gave them the movie about my Mongolian trip. And we watched the movie in the shop selling chewing gum and cola. At the end of my Indian trip, my motorbike started failing. 3 different service stations couldn't repair it, every time giving a new reason. At one of the stations, the motorbike was disassembled and assembled again with no apparent result.
С этого ремонта я буду сейчас стартовать уже третий раз пробовать, потому что постоянно делают одно, второе, третье, но ничего не помогает пока, и байк работает очень неровно и пропадает тяга. Веселье продолжается. Сейчас я приехал на вторую станцию, меня привезли, вернее, парень привез сюда и сказали, что здесь починят, там уже все, рабочее время закончилось, поэтому ребят меня переслали на другую станцию, ребята пытаются меня здесь починить. Только начинаю думать, что приключения закончились уже, да, и осталось 3 дня спокойно доехать до юга Индии. только начинается. Прикольно. Ну что ж, ситуация очень интересная, блин. Короче, ни хера мне не починили. Вот. Механик уехал. Завтра воскресенье. Скорее всего, у меня контроллер. Самое интересное, что как бы люди просто взяли и уехали. Сейчас закрывается просто как бы. Но сейчас я буду, скорее всего, искать себе отель. Но завтра решать вопрос. Воскресенье хоть, но все равно завтра буду решать вопрос. Ну вот мы в темноте. Все закрывается.
And the following morning I found this Indian guy who fixed my bike in just 15 minutes by simply adding some water to the accumulator. But the brightest consequence of all these repairs came about when I was going down the highway along the Bengal Gulf.
Так, сейчас у меня произошла авария, я уже поднял байк. Встречный грузовик шел по второстепенной дороге, и мне пришлось сворачивать на дорогу, и я не удержал байк, и он мне слетел в кювет. Сейчас покажу. Так, короче, что у нас тут? Это у нас фара. Фара работает хорошо, только разбилось стекло. Немножко повредил прибор, щиток немножко повредил. И радиатор. Ну, она должен заводиться, но я думаю, что все в порядке.
Some local Indian guys came up, offered help, and helped me set things in order. One of them took me to a hospital. I'm not sure if that's a good name for this room with a zinc table. I had my wounds treated there, and then the same guy saw me to the service station and later walked me to the hostel in the center of the village on the coast of an amazingly beautiful lake.
Так оказалось, что я сейчас на берегу, ну почти на берегу Бенгальского залива, на бесподобный красивый вид. Вот. И на самом деле все, что не делается, все к лучшему. Ничего страшного не произошло, я просто упал, просто немножко повредил руку и ногу, и просто немножко повредил байк. Поэтому 2 дня отдыхаю, у меня есть это время, в принципе, сейчас, и потом еду дальше.
The Providence itself gave me a couple of days to recharge, and this time I spent doing all sorts of things, taking pictures of the locals and the life of the village. I also tried playing cricket, visited the local temple, sailed to the nearest island on a boat whose sail was made from the clothes of one Indian guy. And in the end, before my departure, I visited a corporate party in the hostel and listened to the local music and songs. It only goes to show that there isn't such a thing as a good or a bad event. There are no problems. They are all elements of life which are there for a reason. Traveling made me feel and understand that I am not a single element trying to communicate with the outer world. I am the world, only a tiny piece of it. I am part of the system I have an influence on, and which has an influence on me. And it's only by opening up for the possible uncertainty and giving up your defense that you get to feel the ways of cosmos. For me, this word gained a special meaning, and now I keep noticing the ways in which the cosmos works. I came up with this thesis for myself and called it magnetic theory of destiny. The closer you are to yourself, the more integrated you are in the environment, and the less effort you have to make to go your way and thus to be happy. I feel as if I am surrounded by this aura which helps me, protects me, and teaches me lessons. When in Mongolia, I noticed how quickly the help can come to you if it's needed badly. In India, these signs became even more evident. The main thing is to relax and do your part, and the cosmos will take care of the rest. In central India, I got another proof of the powerful role the cosmos plays. The most western part of my trip was the state of Goa, a place for sea holidays, yoga, and downshifting. I wanted to get the feel of the place and see why people don't want to leave it and keep putting off their departures. And later I found a bar whose walls were covered with plane tickets that became useless after the flight was postponed. I randomly chose a point on the map of Goa and got underway. The destination was 500 kilometers away. I was going slowly, taking the paved paths with little traffic. At 11 a.m. I decided to have a rest and check my emails via the smartphone. I found an email from a traveler, Vitor, who had just read my email that I had sent him 6 months before.
Полгода назад мне написал письмо, ну, оно у меня затерялось среди кучи других писем. А сегодня, когда мы официально объявили вот этот вот дом ветра, дом для путешественников открытым, я был у себя в мейлбоксе, я отвечал всем людям, кто мне когда-то писал, я их всех приглашал. Вот я сегодня ответил Алексу и сказал, что мы Гоа, приезжай к нам в гости, и он мне через полчаса отписал, что да, я еду на Гоа.
Я тоже хочу от себя сказать, потому что с твоей стороны это не такой космос был. Смотрю это письмо, потом, ну ладно, может быть он где-то в Индии, ну сначала ты там в Индии написал, а потом я как бы зашел по ссылке, что там дом ветра. Гоа, ну вообще, то есть, причем вот почти в ту точку, куда я ехал, по сути. И да. После этого, ну, не верю, да?
I spent 2 days in the house for travelers, communicating with Vitor and his team, who were engaged in some video projects. I walked the beach, watched the people, and generally had a good rest. I found myself in the oasis of tranquil minds, where people simply live, falling into the extreme of lazing about. 2 days of discomfort and lazy life was more than enough for me, and then I packed my things and moved on. Solo travel gives you a unique opportunity to meet new interesting people with different world outlooks, from different religions and cultures, and every time the experience of such meetings surprises me. They always come unexpected, which makes them even more valuable. You have only just met the person, and 1 hour later he becomes your good friend. It's my experience with the Himalayas guys, Kalpish in Delhi, Salim in Karachi, student brother in Pakistani Huzdar. Sometimes these meetings happen by themselves. Sometimes I make them happen. In one local restaurant, I couldn't understand the menu and the chef came out to help me. And as I still couldn't understand it, he took me to the kitchen to show the meals. After the meal, I decided to take a video of the kitchen of the Indian restaurant. The people were smiling at me and even posing a little. One of the meetings took me to the shooting location of an Indian horror movie. It was in the south of India where I had ended my motor trip. And I had 1.5 days to sell my motorbike at any price.
И сейчас я начинаю искать покупателей на свой байк. Езжу тут уже везде, ищу мастерские, ищу салоны, где мне могли предложить хотя бы какую-то цену.
In the beginning, I wasn't successful in my search. I was visiting different motor service stations and Enfield showrooms, but the $200 that I was offered could be better used to take a video of my Enfield falling into the precipice and use the shots in this movie. The first night I didn't manage to sell my motorbike, though the idea of throwing the motorbike into the precipice came to me more and more often. I decided to keep trying to sell it the following morning. In one of the workshops, the guys showed interest in my offer and we agreed on the price of $500 American.
Я хочу попрощаться со своим байком. Он меня вез 5500 километров. Да, ломался, но он себя вел как живой человек, как живое существо, которое со мной пыталось общаться всю дорогу. Поэтому вот последние кадры моего байка. Счастливо тебе, родной мой.
In our negotiations, I was helped by this guy called Madhu, who had come out of the blue, spoke good English, and knew his way around paperwork. After the deal was closed, he took me to the hotel on his motorbike and then invited me to a movie shooting location. He turned out to be a lighting technician in a local film studio. In the evening, I saw a shooting of a horror movie about people rising from the dead. I don't know if they are going to dance and sing in this movie. I didn't see such a scene. I watched these Indian guys do their work. Lighting technicians, cameramen, actors. The film crew, along with the film director, treated me as if I was a journalist. I even did a little photo session with the main character, who played a living corpse and posed for me during the scenes. It was a good ending to the Indian stage of my travel. Such a powerful final chord to it. It's not like there's much use in such meetings. It's only people on your way. It's life colored in joy of encounters. It's an integral part of traveling. With the Indian travel, I struck home. I was living in the moment, not thinking about the past or the future. I was just traveling, observing the events as they happened to me. Communicated with the people, was sad and happy. I was living in the present. You can achieve this state when you're living between the extreme and the comfort. In this state of extreme, you want to get back to peace and quiet. Find your way out of the stress that I call panic of the mind. That's what happened to me in Pakistan. I just wanted to get away from that place as quickly as possible. When in comfort, you're not living in the present. You're doing everything automatically, brushing your teeth, driving your car, following the same old route. This state is typical of the majority of the people living in cities or towns and going through their daily routines. And you constantly balance on the edge of these two extremes in order to be in the present, to live a real life. This state of comfort I felt in Sri Lanka, at the end of my travel. It's a civilized country. From the Ukrainian guys who organized motor tours around the island, I hired a Japanese motorbike, a reliable enduro. I put a lady, Julia, on the pillion and set out on a tour. The motorbike didn't break down. I wasn't alone. There were no meetings with new people. I didn't feel the cosmos. I had a company, though it was only one person, but it was a company, and it's a completely different story. We rode the mountains, watched the tea plantations, wandered the local sacred places, walked around the national park, enjoyed the ocean beaches. It was a kind of a weekend tour. And for 5 days, I became a mere tourist. I found myself in the comfort zone, where my body lived, but not my spirit. Certainly, these 5 days were full of excitement, but again, I was drawn towards more uncertainty, the fine line between the extreme and the comfort. When returning home, you subconsciously start thinking about the future, making plans. The composure and presence of mind that you gain in the travel are shattered here by routine patterns and public opinion. Every solo travel helps me better see the essence of the present, cleared from the trash of seemingly important responsibilities. I get a better vision of the real me. Every person is a big world, and only in solitude, no, in a solo travel, when you're all by yourself, you get to really feel it.